welcome to Temple Update. I'm Victoria Lim.
And I'm Chris O'Connell. Philadelphia recently suffered its first major high-rise fire in years. In the heart of Center City, One Meridian Plaza, a 38-story high-rise directly across from City Hall, went up in flames and took firefighters over 19 hours to control the blaze. This was the scene February 23rd when firefighters were called to what turned out to be the worst high-rise fire in Philadelphia's history. The blaze claimed the lives of 3 Philadelphia firemen who were trapped on the 22nd floor of the building where the fire began. Police, fire, and Red Cross crews still remain on the scene while fire officials find out the cause of the blaze. Falling debris in the area has prompted the city to close off streets surrounding the building. A preliminary check of the structure by the Department of License and Inspections concluded the building is not in danger of collapsing, but major smoke and water damage is evident. The building passed fire inspection last April, but fire officials say that the internal hydrant system failed to provide enough water pressure to control the inferno. In light of the fire, 3 city council members say they plan to introduce measures extending the city's 1981 code requiring sprinklers in high-rise buildings. Fire Commissioner Roger Olshafer estimates about half of the city's 500 high-rises are not fully equipped with sprinkler systems. Councilwoman Ann Land says council would pass a sprinkler legislation, but a final decision would be made after reviewing costs.
Arab and Muslim Americans living in the United States are suffering emotional distress as a result of the Persian Gulf conflict. Around the country, law enforcement and community officials say harassment and discrimination against those of Middle Eastern descent has increased since the beginning of the war. In the first month of this year, dozens of threats have been reported to U.S. agencies monitoring these crimes. According to the American Arab Anti-Discrimination Committee, threats range from phone calls to bombings. As the war grinds to a conclusion, many mental health experts worry that what will happen to the soldiers after the fighting stops. Updates Brad Sussin reports.
Experience shows us that the horrors of war outlive the actual conflict. Our fighting men and women are presently poised to strike with the most massive ground offensive in wartime history. Many will encounter ugly situations that could give rise to psychiatric casualties, says Dr. William McCown, an associate professor in the Department of Mental Health Sciences at Hahnemann University. As a teacher in the clinical psychology program, Dr. McCown specializes in treating adjustment difficulties among troops returning home from combat, what he terms post-traumatic stress disorder. These adjustment difficulties stem from combat experiences.
They are, however, going through what a lot of the veterans of Vietnam went through, and that's something that can be probably even more horrible, which is this constant stress. It is unremitting, that is unmitigating, that goes on just all the time, where at any second they may have to be mobilized, where they may be sniped at or snipered at. The evidence seems to indicate that this sort of just constant stress that doesn't quit has really even worse long-term psychiatric manifestations farther down the line.
And Dr. McCown draws from our experience in Vietnam in advising that an unwelcome reception has scarred our troops psychologically in the past. But he feels that will not recur in this instance.
Distinguishing now between supporting the war policy and supporting our troops. And I think regardless of anyone's position about the war, when the troops come back, they're not going to have blood spilled on them. They're not going to be told they're baby killers. They'll be treated as people that had to do what their country told them to do, right or wrong.
Very much aware of the burden family members are carrying, he offers practical guidelines for relatives communicating with loved ones in the Gulf.
I would tell them to let them talk as much as they are willing and want to talk. If a person, for example, experiences something and they don't want to talk about it and they tell you, don't force them. Probably the first cardinal don't is don't cut them off. If they're wanting to talk about their war experience, let them talk about it. Some of it's going to be painful.
Overall, Dr. McCown optimistically points to the high morale and spirit of our troops, which is key to warding off demoralizing influences.
Morale is very, very positive. We have a lot less infractions from the soldiers. We have a lot less guys who are raping and pillaging and doing antisocial type things. And I think we're going to see a lot less psychiatric evacuations, too, because of that.
Though some of our troops will carry home with them physical and psychological wounds. Hopefully, they will be warmly embraced and duly recognized when they return back to America. For Temple Update, This is Brad Sussin.
Pennsylvania veterans of the Gulf War and their dependents are eligible for scholarships worth up to four years at Temple University. Faculty, staff, and students who are called to military duty in the Gulf are also covered. To date, 38 students, faculty, and staff at Temple have been called up for service during the crisis.
Limits on minority scholarships may end soon. Lamar Alexander says that when he becomes the next Secretary of Education, college officials can go back what they were doing before the new year. Late in 1990, the Civil Rights Office at the Department of Education ruled minority scholarships are illegal. Alexander says there will be no limitations and no illegal monies under his administration. Patriotism is at an all-time high, but the hanging of American flags at a Temple residential hall is causing controversy. Temple Update's Sharice Curtis reports.
Here at Temple University, one residential hall is showing its support for the troops in the Persian Gulf. At Temple Towers, you will find yellow ribbons on doors, bulletin boards, and balcony railings. Yellow ribbons aren't the only things you can find. There are American flags hanging from the balcony railings. These flags are causing quite a stir for university housing officials. Recently, housing officials asked residents to remove the flags from the balcony. According to officials, the flags were in violation of a housing policy. Some students were angered by this request.
I have a brother in the military now, and so he's directly affected by the war. And something like this, it really hits home, and I want to support the troops any way I can, and I don't think that's right to Temple University, especially after what they put us through this year with the strike and this and that and the other, should tell us how we can show how we feel about the crisis.
Others have moved their flags from the balcony to their windows. For Temple Update, I'm Sharice Curtis.
Can a man and woman live in a 20 by 20-foot room dorm without resisting hanky-panky? Students at the Stanford University took part in a gender exploration week to find out the answer. 48 residents in dormitory traded their roommates for roomies of the opposite sex. The roommates attended workshops covering topics like, is true platonic friendship possible? University officials had no problem with the experiment. Parents, however, on the other hand, were not amused.
An advertising campaign to get kids to say no to drugs is making them say no to eggs. Two advertising magazines report this stems from those "This is your brain on drugs" commercials. Youngsters all over the country are refusing to eat fried eggs in belief their parents are giving them drugs and trying to make them do bad things to their brains. And April Ennis is here from the sports desk.
Good morning.
Morning,
How are
April.
you guys today?
All right.
Basketball. Have come to any basketball games?
The Atlantic 10 coming up. NCAA's tournament also on its way.
Right. Okay. Mark Macon has missed the last two games because of an ankle sprain. The Owls, who found themselves on the road, went 1-1 on the trip, winning 80-70 over the Minutemen and losing 91-66 to the Mountaineers. The Owls, who are 19-8 overall and 12-5 in the Atlantic 10, are gearing up for an A-10 tournament held at the Palestra. And a former Owl has returned to the hardwood, this time not as a player but as a coach. Updates Scott Stevens reports.
If you have been to McGonigal Hall this season, you will see a familiar face sitting on the Owls bench. Nate Blackwell, who played for Temple from 1983 to 1987, has returned to the Owls as the newest member of John Chaney's coaching staff. The bond between Blackwell and Chaney was formed when Blackwell became Chaney's first ever recruit in 1982. But their similarities go beyond Temple.
Yes, I'm from South Philadelphia, and Coach is also from South Philadelphia, so a lot of our roots and our background is the same. You know, I was I got the MVP of the city, I guess, my senior year coming out, and you know, he goes back and he shows me when he won the Markwood Award, which is given to supposedly the best player in the city.
Blackwell feels that he is well-rounded when it comes to coaching.
I work with all aspects of the game. That's one thing. When I was a player, I kind of prided myself in knowing everyone's position.
Blackwell's only an assistant coach for now, but don't be surprised to see him as a head coach someday. Reporting for Temple Update, I'm Scott Stevens.
In women's basketball, the Lady Owls have a modest two-game winning streak as they prepare for the upcoming Atlantic 10 tournament. Temple breezed to a 55-41 victory over Massachusetts. Tanya Cole led the Owls with 12 points. The Lady Owls then defeated Rhode Island as Temple rallied for a 56-55 win. Tanya Cole again led the ladies with 25 points. Temple improved their Atlantic 10 record to 10-7 and 13-13 overall. A former Temple Owl who has a bright future in the NBA returned for a brief visit to McGonigal Hall. Updates Chris Losey reports.
If you attended the George Washington contest at McGonigal Hall, chances are you would have seen a familiar face in Dwayne Coswell. Because of the NBA All-Star break, Coswell had an opportunity to return to North Philadelphia. A rookie for Sacramento in the NBA, Coswell was selected 17th overall by the Kings. He and LaSalle's Lionel Simmons from South Philadelphia combined for the Kings' first 2 selections.
I didn't know idea that I was going to be drafted by Sacramento. It was a surprise to me as well as everybody. So but I'm happy with the outcome anyway.
Although he doesn't receive the playing time he would like, for now he's enjoying life in the NBA.
Well, right now I'm just starting. I'm playing like 26 minutes a game. So it's a lot of playing time for a rookie, and I'm just hoping to improve on that. Now we just got to up our tempo and try to win games more on the road, because that's what we're having trouble at. And, we all rookies, so there's only best things to come out of that. We still playing hard like we are now.
Coswell was the center of a Temple team that was ranked #1 in the nation in 1988. But after 2.5 successful years on the basketball court, academic problems led to Dwayne's dismissal from the university in 1990. Returning to Temple doesn't bother Dwayne at all.
I just see my old team. We play together and just see them one more time.
First impressions?
I think they're doing a pretty good job. They playing together. They got the right kind of team to win the championship. So I'm looking for them to do big.
Reporting for Temple Update, I'm Chris Losey.
And some Temple basketball season ticket holders will have to reach deeper into their pockets next season. Temple has added a $250 per season ticket surcharge. The money will help replenish the school's athletic fund. The increase will not affect those who contribute to the Owl Fund or university students. According to athletic director Charlie Theokas, the increase has been in the making for the past 4 years, and Temple could not afford to hold off any longer. The men's gymnastics team is in the spotlight these days after tri-meet success against Pittsburgh and York. The Owls' outstanding team efforts snapped the school's all-time scoring record. Once again, All-Americans Bill Roth and Jim Van de Zilver had record-breaking outings. The Owls are now undefeated in the EIGL at 3-0. The women's gymnastics team finished 3rd in the tri-meet matchup against Massachusetts and Northeastern. Gymnasts Lisa Kuntzman and Sandra Mitchell finished 5th and 6th, respectively, and the Owls have a busy week ahead as they travel to Alabama to face Auburn and West Virginia, then back home to McGonigal to face Penn. And the Temple hockey team is having another successful season. They recently had an opportunity to play the Philadelphia Flyers alumni team. Updates Karen Blanc reports.
Temple's Ice Hockey Club may not get the recognition that the football or basketball programs do, but recently they had the chance to face off against Philadelphia Flyers legends. The Temple squad, coming back from an undefeated 89-90 season, is off to the same fantastic start this season as well. John Hershkowitz, left defenseman on the Temple club, says that the prospects of playing against Hall of Famers Reggie Leach and Bernie Perrant were great.
Temple University Ice Hockey team is playing the Flyer alumni team. They're the team from the 74-75 Stanley Cup teams. We're playing them in an exhibition game to raise money for Leukemia Foundation.
Temple players put forth a valiant effort, but were outmatched by a Flyers alumni team that has now won 150 games. Their losses? None. To their credit, the Owls avoided the dreaded shutout when well into the second period, behind by 6 points, Steve Nichols scored and the crowd went wild. Flyers alumni T.J. Garrance explains it's all for a good cause.
Well, actually, we've been doing this probably for the last 7 years in hockey and probably 12 or 13 in softball with current Flyers and past Flyers. So it's been something we've done for a lot of the charity events around there.
Despite the alumni's 12-2 victory, the true winner was the Barry Ashby Leukemia Foundation, and everyone had a fine time at the Hard Puck Cafe. Reporting for Temple Update, I'm Karen Blanc.
In fencing, freshman Lisa Honig continues to roll by, qualifying to represent the United States at the World Junior Fencing Championships in August. Honig qualified by collecting points at 3 junior circuit and 3 senior circuit tournaments. And that about wraps things up from the sports desk this morning. Back to Chris and Vicki with some more news.
Thanks, April. Vice President Dan Quayle is not getting the vote from college editors. According to the National College newspaper, over 200 editors were surveyed. 3 out of 4 said they don't want Quayle to have a second term in office. 42% also said they wouldn't vote for President George Bush again.
Those who can do and do teach. The University of the District of Columbia has offered former D.C. Mayor Marion Barry a position in their criminal justice department. Department Chair Kelsey Jones says Barry would get $17,000 to teach a public and social policy course on the administration of justice for 1 semester. Barry was sentenced to 6 months in prison on cocaine charges.
Are you ready for spring break? Updates Darlene Quinn gives some tips to help you choose a vacation that's right for you.
Sun, warmth, waves, things we can only dream about in Philadelphia. But believe it or not, spring break is right around the corner. These Temple students say it can't come soon enough.
It's freezing now.
Are you cold right now?
Yes, very cold.
From Florida to Mexico, the Bahamas to Jamaica, there are many spring break packages to choose from, and they're not hard to find. But watch out. While the bold print may look attractive, be sure to check the fine print, especially the responsibility and cancellation policies. Also, find out exactly where your hotel is located.
You want to deal with a reputable agency or tour company. When you deal with Rosenbluth, you have a company that's traditionally 100 years old.
Mr. Pieri adds, there aren't many surprises this year since most students still choose traditional locations.
Daytona Beach, Miami, Fort Lauderdale, and our programs are geared not only to students but also to families.
Yep, I'm going to Daytona Beach.
I'm going to Clearwater, Florida.
I'm going to Austin, Texas to visit my brother who goes to UT right now.
Me and my friend have decided to just rent a cheap car and drive north to Michigan, south to Mississippi, and then just west until we run out of money, then we're going to fly back.
Airfare is one of the biggest expenses to consider. Midway Airlines was booking seats on flights to Florida for as little as $158 round trip. Such fares are hard to find now.
Airfare is around $257 round trip. If you do an all-inclusive, which would be air, hotel, transfers, and taxes, our Rosenbluth exclusive packages run $550 for 7 days double occupancy.
These students at Temple University say they can't wait until March 9th for Spring Break 91 to begin.
No, I cannot wait.
I'm freezing. I can't wait for spring break.
Can you believe spring break's only a couple weeks away? Not at all. The semester's gone really fast.
Doesn't feel like it.
If you're planning on going away this spring break and you still haven't booked your flight, be expecting to pay a higher price, and you better get moving. For Temple Update, I'm Darlene Quinn.
The University of Pennsylvania is the recipient of a federal grant to study minds and machines. The National Science Foundation is giving $5.4 million to Penn's Institute for Research in Cognitive Science. School officials say the institute's work will lead to smarter robots, faster computers, and provide new insights on how people learn. Penn is one of 14 universities nationwide to receive funds for science and technology centers. Now it's time to take a look at the later side of the news. Here's Sean Murphy and entertainment.
Hello and welcome to E-Team 91. This is a show that defies the odds, defies gravity, defies definition. The concept came about when a little geriatric fellow with a lisp and 4 green fingernails named it... Excuse me. You in the glasses. Are those E-Team jeans you're wearing?
Well, yes, they are E-Team jeans.
I thought so. The Rolling Stones are in the news. Their 1965 classic, I Can't Get No Satisfaction, will be used for the new Snickers TV commercials. The candy bar's manufacturer became less and less satisfied with the old slogan, Snickers really satisfies. The music publisher ABCO, which owns the rights to the song, turned Snickers down many times. That is, until $4 million was offered. Mick Jagger and Keith Richards will receive a mere $2.8 million from the deal. Speaking of big bucks, the 1-900 numbers industry will ring in $500 million this year. Not too bad for an enterprise that didn't exist 4 years ago. You can dial for anything from Jeopardy to Let's Make a Deal, Vanilla Ice to Walter Payton, and of course your favorite daytime soaps. Before you start punching buttons, though, keep in mind, the average call costs about $1.50 a minute. CBS kicked off Sweeps Week with a tribute to 3 of its all-time gems. And gems they were. The Ed Sullivan Show was the most talked-about entertainment show of the 50s and 60s. The show featured guests from every rung of the entertainment ladder.
But Mom got broke, and the wintertime coming on, didn't have no money, and I married another old man.
As the 70s took hold, equal rights was introduced to the English language. The Mary Tyler Moore Show was a perfect illustration that a single female over 30 could survive as an independent success.
Don't you dare!
Relax, Mary. This will only take an hour.
Another 70s success was All in the Family. It was a controversial show which riled many. This tribute was dedicated to letting the fans speak out about its racial, religious, and chauvinistic shortcomings.
It offended me.
His Bible, I should say, is what suits Archie.
There was no New York in heaven, Dopey. He said that in the Garden of Eden when he told Eve not to eat the apple, but she ate it anyhow. And the snake was there and he rattled on it.
Ed Sullivan in the 50s and 60s, Mary Tyler Moore, and All in the Family in the 70s. Television that entertained a generation. For those of you who couldn't get enough Batman, this story will make your heart rate and your respiration increase. Batman 2 is in the works. Tim Burton, director of the 1989 Batman movie, will begin shooting this summer. Michael Keaton returns as the fearless crusader for justice, and Danny DeVito will star as the Penguin. In soap opera news, when The Bold and the Beautiful was created, a more perfect name couldn't have been picked. This is Bold. The latest plot deals with Jake, his dad Ben, and their very strange relationship. Father-son incest is the latest plot. The writers of the show say sexual abuse is an issue that should be addressed because it happens every day. You may have seen him in Sea of Love, and you've probably seen him on Roseanne. He's John Goodman, and this is his first starring role. The movie is King Ralph, and here's a clip.
As you may have read, I love music, and since this is the biggest audience I've ever had, I'd like to play something for you tonight. Maybe pick up the tempo a little, get things rolling. This is a sweet little Richard Penniman tune. Thanks. Coat was cramping my style.
Miss Molly, you so like the ball. Yeah, good golly, Miss Molly, you so like the ball. When you're rocking and rolling, you can't hear mama call. Well, from the early morning to the early night, you can hear Miss Molly coming and she's coming for a life. Good golly, Miss Molly, yeah, you so like the ball. When you're rocking and rolling,
since the show is running a little short, among other things, I'd like to take this opportunity to introduce one of our friends in the business. Her name is Lisa Fairfax, and she's the nighttime DJ on the new Easy 101. And she's a very busy, hard-working person. Did you ever wonder what she does when she's not on the air?
And when I'm not playing night songs, I'm watching the E-Team, Temple University's entertainment.
I've got chills. How about you? Now back to the news.
Thanks, John. Temple University's Center City campus kicked off its annual Poets and Writers series early in February. The series is scheduled to include such prominent authors such as Constance Pierce, John Loweth, and Barbara Guest. Public readings will be held throughout April 11th. The Center City campus is located at 1619 Walnut Street.
It could be one of the greatest literary discoveries of the 20th century. The first half of the original text to Mark Twain's The Adventures of Huckleberry Finn has been found gathering dust in a Los Angeles attic. A 62-year-old librarian living in Hollywood came across the text, which has been authenticated by a number of experts. The 665-page manuscript has been missing since the mid-1880s. Do you like to cuddle up with a good book and a cup of coffee? Update's Erica Hedden is here to tell us about a store where you can do just that. Erica?
Yes, thank you, Victoria. With the economy in a recession, many store owners are looking for new and different ways to sell their product. One Center City bookstore is adding a footnote on what it means to sell books. If you're craving intellectual stimulation, Borders Bookstore may be just the spot for you. Literary artists share their works with you and then candidly discuss the process.
Well, we bring in anyone from authors to illustrators to editors to translators. We have the author read for 20 to 30 minutes. We follow that with a question and answer period, and then we have book signing. I'm really opposed to the idea of having just a signing. I feel we have to offer the public a real program.
And the public includes all ages.
I do a lot of children's programming. Every Saturday morning we have a kids program. I also do live music from time to time.
If you smell the aroma of coffee, the espresso bar on the second floor welcomes you to relax and talk about the latest book you've read.
The espresso bar was originally intended in large part as a drawing card. As it turned out, the espresso bar is as much of an attraction as the bookstore.
You might get to meet your favorite author, and you can definitely have a cup of espresso. But don't forget, Borders Bookstore also has a wide array of books. Patrons leisurely peruse the vast collections. Novelties include unabridged books on tape and sections titled Local Interest, Environment, and Transportation. 1,000 different periodicals feature foreign language newspapers as well as papers from major U.S. cities. And if the bohemian atmosphere and special services haven't piqued your interest,
we're going to have some major national names in this spring.
Reporting for Temple. Borders seems reminiscent of beatnik days, but in the 90s it's for a much wider audience. Hollywood actress Ali Sheedy recently made an appearance at Borders to promote her new book. In attendance, over 300 people.
Thanks, Erica. The phrase Gung Hei Fat Choi echoed through the streets of Philadelphia's Chinatown as local residents rang in the Chinese New Year. Firecrackers started the year off with a bang. It's the year 4689, according to the Chinese calendar. Members of Chinatown's Lin Yang Association performed a traditional lion dance in front of local businesses and restaurants. It's the year of the ram. Those born under this sign are characterized as warriors, lovers of nature and art, easygoing and well-mannered.
What can you buy with 29 cents these days? Well, as of February 3rd, the first-class postage stamp. The 4-cent boost was the first price increase in over 3 years. The awkward price, however, has some consumers asking why 29 cents. Postal officials say that 16% increase is not enough, and they don't want to overcharge consumers for stamps.
If you want your daughter to come across as successful, intelligent, and ambitious, name her Jacqueline, Catherine, Samantha, or my favorite, Victoria. For the healthy, athletic, and confident son, consider Chad, Rick, Mark, or John. These name tips come from UCLA psychology professor Albert Morabian, who's written The Name Game. Morabian's research says names play such a powerful part in first impressions, they can affect success and psychological well-being.
And that's it for this edition of Temple Update. I'm Chris O'Connell.
And I'm Victoria Lim for April, Sean, and the entire Update crew. Thanks for watching.